I wrong for pausing my husband's game because he wouldn't give our baby a bath on time? I, 23 female, paused the internet on every single device in the apartment because my husband, 23 male, refused to get off of the game and give our 8-month son a bath on time. I know this sounds like you're the asshole, but let me explain. There's a lot of background information that went into this decision. My husband does not help with the household whatsoever. Doesn't wash dishes, do laundry, clean any room of the house, cook dinner, etc. He'll get home and throw off his uniform onto the floor and leave it there until the next day. If the house is dirty, he'll chide me and tell me that I don't do anything, I don't clean enough, and I don't cook enough dinner. Our biggest issue is the baby. I am the main caretaker for our son 99.9% of the time. I get up with him during the night when he wakes up crying. My husband will here and there, but he'll start screaming at me about how he needs his rest and I need to get up. If our son is sick, I'm the one that takes off work. I've missed almost 6 weeks of work in the past 3 months because my husband wouldn't even ask his supervisor if he could stay home one of those days. I'm the one that gets up at 6 a.m. and stays with our son until about 12 to 1 p.m. And that's when I tell my husband he needs to get up and take care of the baby so I can take a nap. Once I get up, he complains that I've been sleeping all day while he's been taking care of the baby by himself and I'm lazy. I recently got promoted to E5 after being up 3 times in a row and taking a hard exam that I studied for. My husband unfortunately didn't make it this time around and is still in E3 and he blames me for it, saying if he didn't have to transfer after a year at his previous command, he would have made it. My husband told me that it's not a surprise that I made it because my job is easy and all we do is sit at computers all day while he works out in the sun and cold on equipment. I'm an intelligence and he's got a manual labor job. Then he'll joke around and say he didn't mean to be rude, but this is a constant thing he does. I paused the game tonight because every night we feed our son and give him a bath at 7 p.m. on the dot. He's always had this routine. After I fed the baby, I told my husband that it was time for the bath, after I already laid out all the baby supplies and clothes for after the bath. And my husband told me to just sit the baby down in the playpen until he's done with the game. I gently told him no, that it's bedtime and I wasn't going to shift our son's routine so he could play the game for an extra half hour and my husband needs to learn to prioritize. I then paused the game and my husband flew off the handle, threatening to break my phone and refused to give our son a bath and called me lazy for not doing it instead. My husband literally hops on the game and plays it from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep. Am I the asshole?
This guy put out a blicky on me because his stepdaughter didn't want to get active. By the way, if this story is about you, don't take it to heart. It's been 4 years. This is just for entertainment purposes. So move on. Like I said, guys, this story took place like 4 years ago when COVID was around. So yeah. So basically, around COVID, I used to live. Well, I was not really living, but like I was spending most of like my summer COVID era with my cousins at their house. And practically, in the meantime, we had that little COVID era. People were being messy on the internet and stuff. And me being me around that time, I was going into 8th grade. I was super messy. I was always trying to get into fights. I'm no longer like that, you know. I'm a grown woman. So basically, these girls had made this account. It was like a school tea page or whatever. And on that account, they had posted a picture of my cousin. And mind you, my cousin, she's like really sweet. Like she's very like shy. Like she doesn't even get into no problems whatsoever. Like she just in her own little world all the time. And they had posted her and they were like spreading rumors about her. And me being me, defending my cousin, you know, family, I went off on the account and I texted the account and told the girls to get active and to show their real colors. Me and whoever the girls were that were running the account were just going back and forth at it until eventually they gave in and they showed their true colors and we found out who they were. And apparently it was some girl that like my cousin didn't even talk to like that. So it was like, oh, like she was just being messy because it was COVID. And boom shakalaka, me and the girls are arguing back and forth and we're like, all right then, pull up to the crib. And this was around the time where everybody used to share their lows on Snap, and so they obviously had my low and they were like, all right babe, we're gonna pull up. And they pulled up. Once they pulled up, they sent a picture of our outside of our house and we're like, all right bet. So we come outside looking for the car. I'm ready to throw hands because my cousin, she's a really sweet girl, she doesn't get into no problems, and I was just trying to defend her. And I'm looking for them and I'm calling them, I'm like, where y'all at, because y'all sent a picture of the house but y'all not here. And out of nowhere I peeped like a little van, like, you know, like just right there in the corner. Mind y'all, that van was never there. We know the cars that were in the neighborhood and that was not one of our neighborhood cars. Car like drives in front of our house, and this guy gets out the car. Literally, this grown man gets out the car. Mind y'all, we ain't never seen this guy a day in our life, and it was just like a complete plot twist for us because we didn't even know who he was. He was a grown man. Like, we were so freaking confused. And mind y'all, he was the one driving the car, so he gets out the driver's seat and he just starts arguing with me while he's clutching. Like, he's clutching, and I can tell that he's clutching, and he's just like yelling at me, telling me to leave his daughter alone, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, your daughter's the one who made the whole fake page talking shit about my cousin. Like, what are you talking about? And boom shakalaka, he ends up pulling out his, he pulls it out. He was like, you don't want me to do this to you right now? Like, he's just going back and forth with me. I was like, I don't give up. I don't care. But y'all, we were home alone. There was no grown adults. Don't ask me where they was at. They was at work. Anyways, so yeah, he just practically pointed at me, and I'm just like, bro, I really don't care. Like, do it right now. And I'm like, and while we're arguing, I'm like, tell him to get out the car, tell him to get out the car, tell him to get out the car. Them girls did not want to come out the car. It was 2 girls, y'all, 2 girls. And boom shakalaka, he doesn't end up, obviously, and he just gets in the car and he just drives off fastly, and that was the end of it. They got in a fight with some other girls. Okay, let me explain it better. So practically, the girl that I was supposed to get active with got her karma because somebody else's dad that she was beefing with, like the girl, grabbed her during a fight and let their daughter beat her up. I don't know. You may ask, where was her stepdad at during that time? I don't know.
So I thought we'd do it tonight while I talk about the times that I felt like I've almost been kidnapped. Okay, so this first one actually happened yesterday. So fun. Basically, I had been in, like, Pasadena area, okay, and, like, I'm about to cross this, like, kind of busy street, and as I'm about to cross, I see this older Asian lady, okay, and I don't know what language she was speaking, but she, like, came up to me, and she started talking, and I don't know what she was saying, but at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, is she asking me to help her cross the street? And so, I turn around and I'm like, hello, like, do you need something, like, whatever? And she starts, like, pointing at her phone, like, really aggressively. And she's speaking, and I don't know what she's saying. And so I start asking her, I'm like, do you need a phone charger? Like, is that what because I didn't know what she was saying. And I noticed she had, like, a paper in her hand that was, like, written in whatever language, and then had a translation into English. And so I was kind of confused about that, whatever, and she had, like, a little, like, walker, whatever. And so there was, like, a Verizon right next to us, and I was like, oh, well, like, if you need to charge your phone, there's a Verizon right there. And she keeps on, like, yelling. She starts, like, yelling, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, but there's a Verizon if you need a phone charger, because I didn't know how to, like, communicate with her. And so I start pointing at the Verizon, and I think she understands what I'm saying, and she starts telling me, like, to come with her. Like, she's like, come, she's saying that. And she, like, starts, like, trying to, like, grab for my arm. And I was like, no. Like, the first door right there. It was the first door. I was like, it's the first door right there. And she starts literally trying to grab for me. And I was like, no, I have to go. I have to cross the street now. But I was actually so terrified. I was like, I swear some van is about to pull up and some people are about to shove me in there. That's, no, thank you. So yeah, that was not fun. And then this other one happened a few months back. There's this gas station that I went to by my school, and, like, always weird things happened. But this was by far the weirdest one. And I know some of you guys are going to yell at me and be like, Scarlett, why did you even engage with this? And I'll explain to it. Okay, so basically, I was about to fill up my gas, and I put my card in wrong. I clicked, like, credit, even though I had a debit card. And so it said on, like, the little machine, like, someone from inside the gas station is going to come help you. Okay, so, like, I'm filling up my gas, I figure the whole thing out, I'm like, okay, I'm good, I don't need someone from the gas station to come, and, like, a few moments later, as soon as I, like, put the thing in, some man comes up to me. I'm pretty sure he was Middle Eastern, but I'm not completely sure. Anyways, he comes up to me, and I'm like, oh, no, I got it, don't worry, and he starts telling me, he's like, oh, I have a message for you, and I'm like, what? Don't get me wrong, this is, like, so stupid, but I was also in a moment where I was just, like, going through a lot of things. I was like, what message do you have for me Like, you know, I'd seen like tarot card readings all up on my For You page. I was like, oh my gosh, is this like real? Like, what's going on? And he was like, I was sent from God to talk to you. Like, I have a message. He was like, one of your eyes is a snake eye and the other is an eagle eye. Like, you can see and hear things and understand things that other people can't. I was like, wow, all these compliments. This is great. And he started like going on. Keep in mind, I've told him nothing about myself. Nothing. Okay, so he starts going on. He's like, I see a letter S. Like, does that mean anything to you? And I was like, because, you know, my name is Scarlett, and I started, like, freaking out a little bit. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, like, that's my name. Like, what are you saying? And he's like, yeah, like, I have a message for you. And he's like, I understand that you, like, you want a lot of things that you aren't receiving, which was really true for me at the time. So I was like, what in the world? And he just, like, keeps going on and on, saying that he has this message directly for me, and, like, I'm stupid. But I started getting a little creeped out because he started, like, leaning on my car, and that's just, like, weird. Like, what are you doing? And so I started getting a little suspicious. I was like, okay, what is this man doing? I'm also pretty sure I recorded it, but I didn't save it because I was sending a vlog to my friend. And I was like, what is going on right now? I kept on looking at my phone, like, you know? And then anyways, he keeps on going on. Finally, my gas, like, is done. So I'm like, okay, I have to go now. And he's like, but I didn't tell you my message. I didn't tell you my message. And I was like, oh, it's okay. You know, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. And he's like, no, just come with me for 5 minutes. Come with me for 5 minutes and I'll tell you my message that I came here to tell you. And I was like, no, thank you. I have to go. I have to be somewhere. And he's like, you won't spend 5 minutes to hear a message directly from God? Like, getting upset at me. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but I have to go, like, right now. I'm gonna be late. And I got in my car and I locked it and I left. I don't know why. I swear when I go out, I don't know if I give off, like, an energy of, like, please come up to me and mess with me, or, like, you can talk to me and say anything and I'll believe you. But so many weird things happen to me when I'm out and about by myself. It's really interesting. But that's it for now.
I overheard the guy that I had a crush on talking so bad about me. Let's talk about it. So right before going into my freshman year of high school, I tried out for the volleyball team, and I remember being so excited, but I had always been kind of like a tomboy and like didn't really dress girly or anything like that. And I didn't realize that a lot of the girls who played volleyball wore such like cute clothes. Like, I came in like basketball shorts, oversized shirt, like ready to play. And when I got there, I quickly realized that, like, that was not the appropriate uniform. Like, everybody had on these, like, cute, small little shorts and shirt sets and their hair done really cute. And that, I think, is the first time I ever felt like, oh, I don't fit in with these people. Honestly, it didn't bother me that much because I was like, you know what? I am just here to play anyway. The football team that was trying out, and I remember seeing all the boys coming in, and that was the first time that I was like, wow, like, these guys are really cute. And there was one in particular that I was like, oh my god, like, he's so cute, and he was like my first. And he even like complimented me on my socks, which I was like, oh my god, like, I'm in love. And there was one girl who was trying out for volleyball too, and she was a few years older than me, and she was just like the it girl, you know what I mean? Like, she was so beautiful, and like all the girls flocked to her, all the guys too. And my crush on that guy came to a screeching halt when I heard him talking to her about me. So like I said, my crush came to a screeching halt when I came out after practice one day, and I heard them all be like, oh, is that really her name? And like, they saying my name, and they were like, oh, that sounds totally like a guy's name, like not a girl's name. And like, it doesn't seem bad, but that already was bad enough that they were like making fun of my name. And obviously, like, I dress like a tomboy, but then my crush goes, yeah, well, she definitely doesn't look like a girl. She definitely looks more like a dude. I heard the other girl talk about how she's seen me before. She thinks my mom works in her mom's office, and like, just basically kind of making fun of like the fact that I didn't dress like a girl and that I was poor and just like really rude, and it broke my little 9th grade heart. It really hurt my feelings, but it was a new year and I was trying to like dress more girly. I was like, you know what, this is my sign. I'm gonna start trying to dress more like a girl, whatever. My mom's been trying to get me to do that for years anyway. And so when I started freshman year, that's what I did. And then I actually got sat next to like the guy that I like, the one that I heard talking crap about me, and we got partnered up for this school project. He actually was super nice to me
when I met him, and so I was trying, or when we got partnered up, so I was trying to like put all that aside that I had heard he said about me, and then he invited me over to his house to work on this project. So I show up thinking it's going to be like me and him, we're going to knock out this project and it's going to be fun. I quickly realized that's not going to be the case when I get there, and all the people he was basically talking crap about me, plus a few extras were there, and those girls were also on the cheer team, and they were all just like hanging out, and I found myself in his dining room alone doing the project. We started off doing it together, but more and more they would like call him in there, and he would just be like making out with that girl, like flirting with her, and like I just like wanted to die. Like I wanted to leave. I just did not want to be there anymore. After a lot of time of him just ignoring me and me working on this project a lot alone by myself, I packed my stuff up and I was like, I'm leaving. Like I'm not gonna be treated like this. And he could tell like when he came back in there to finally check on me that I was mad, and he was like, dude, like it's not a big deal, like calm down. And I was like, I'm not a dude as much as your friends like to joke that I am. And I wish y'all could have seen his face, like jaw on the floor. He couldn't believe that he had gotten caught talking bad about me, basically.
Am I in the wrong for cropping my sister-in-law out of my wedding photos after she said that she looked fat? My wife, 27 female, and I, 28 male, recently got married, and it was amazing. The wedding was set on a riverside farm, so we had photo shoots outside on the fields before the ceremony. We started taking photos around noon, and my sister-in-law, 30 female, was one of the bridesmaids. Sister-in-law has always been a negative person since I met her, always trying to make small judgmental comments, while my wife is an incredibly kind person. They have very different personalities, so I never question why they aren't close, and assume that my sister-in-law was included in her group of bridesmaids to appease my wife's parents. Because sister-in-law and my wife had never been close, she was at the end of the line of bridesmaids and usually was at the edges of the group photos. While taking the photos, sister-in-law was the only person complaining about things like the sunny weather and how her dress was absorbing heat. I don't know much about dresses, but it was about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Most people in the photo shoot group ignored her comments, and it wasn't an issue for the rest of the day. We got the photos of both the shoot and the ceremony from the photographer 3 weeks after the wedding. We promptly sent the photos to the people in the photo shoot and told them that we plan on using the photos on social media. Most people thanked us for the photos, but my sister-in-law called my wife and was very angry, yelling that she looked like a fat pig in every photo she was in, and demanded that we not use any of the photos with her in them. For context, sister-in-law is bigger than my wife, but not to an extreme extent. She doesn't look unhealthy, and I've never heard her have body issues before, but I admittedly wouldn't know much about it. In the wedding photos, she really doesn't look any different from her normal self. My wife tried to reason with her, saying that she looks just as pretty as everyone else, but sister-in-law did not want to hear it. She reiterated that if we use any of the photos on social media, that she would never speak to us again and would put us on blast, whatever that means. My wife was really hurt by my sister's outburst, and I was very bothered that she thought that she could tell us what to do with our special moment. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I decided that if she had such a problem, she didn't need to be in the photos. I cropped her out and posted those versions to social media. I thought it would be fine, and it was easy since she was at the edge anyway. After posting, she then called me even angrier than before and accused me of trying to erase her from the memory of the wedding. I told her that I only did it to accommodate her wishes while also getting to use our own wedding photos. She hasn't talked to us in a week, and my wife's parents are mad at us for upsetting her. While my wife is on my side, she thinks that I could have been more mature about it. I don't think I did anything wrong and accommodated her already unreasonable request. So, am I in the wrong?
Am I the asshole for turning down my sister's ask to be her maid of honor? I'll start with the background first. My sister, 27 female, and I, 25 female, had pretty crappy parents. I was their favorite golden child, and they treated my sister like shit. It always upset me, and I loved my sister, so I always tried to get them to be better to her. When they'd rely heavily on what I wanted for dinner, for example, I'd tell them to ask my sister, or I'd ask her myself. I'd do the same if they only let me choose our vacation, or to vote on what movie we should watch for family movie night, or if they gave me money to buy something, but not my sister. I tried rejecting stuff they offered me and told them they should divide stuff between the two of us, but it never worked. So I would accept it and then share it with my sister. I told my sister I loved her every day and really tried to back her up and support her. I also talked to my parents about how bad it was that they treated my sister the way they did, but it never had an impact on them. Our parents never changed, and it drove us apart. When my sister turned 19, she pulled away from me, and then when I asked her why, she told me because she hated me. She called me selfish, spoiled little princess, and said she didn't need my pity. I had sent her lots of gifts, and she also mentioned me trying to get mom and dad to include her. She said her life would have been better if I had never existed, that her biggest regret was not being an only child. She made it clear she blamed me for our parents' favoritism more than them. That I took her chance to have parents who loved her and wanted her. That our parents never called or reached out in any way one time after she went to college. Our relationship didn't end there, but it hurt to have her blame me like she did, to hate me for trying as much as I did. I can admit I might have gone overboard at times trying to make up for mom and dad, but it was never out of pity. It was out of love. And I still love my sister, but I don't see us ever being close again. We see each other rarely. She always made it clear she didn't really want want me in her life, but she never let me go completely. She got engaged 2 years ago. I found out from a third party. She had a bunch of bridesmaids chosen and was planning the wedding. I'm pretty certain I wasn't even going to be invited. But then she and her best friend had a huge fight, and the best friend dropped out of the wedding. She said some stuff that upset my sister, and some of it made her reflect on our relationship, and so she approached me a week ago and asked me to be her maid of honor. The way she asked me kind of felt like she was still wanting me to prove myself. It felt like being asked with force. And while she admitted why she was asking, she refused to touch on the actual strain between us. So I said no. She walked away from me and did not contact me for 5 days. Then she told me I was just like our parents, rejecting her by saying no to the maid of honor role, and she hopes I can live with that. Am I the asshole?
It's a really insane story. I want to preface by saying I try not to believe in ghosts. I think it's a defense mechanism, but I honestly am a huge believer in the theory that a lot of people that have ghost experiences live in places with high carbon monoxide poisoning, which is why it's always older homes, which that can lead to hallucinations. It's a whole rabbit hole. But this one is real. So my older sister, when I was in middle school, she was in college, and she lived in a house in Carlsbad with her friends. Funny enough, Carlsbad would eventually be where the Paranormal Activity series took place, and it's so eerily similar. My sister was living there with her friends, roommates, and she was upstairs, another girl was upstairs, and they would always kind of hear odd things in the house, but it wasn't enough to raise the alarm bells. But there was one night where someone walked up the stairs, they went into the bathroom, and my sister thought it was just her roommate, but the person began turning the faucet on, turning it off, opening cupboards, then closing them. But then it started to get more repetitive and aggressive, and eventually she heard footsteps and someone jiggling with her doorknob, but her door was locked. And then the person walks to the other side of the hallway to get into her roommate's room. The door opens and the girl screams, and she uses the joined balcony to run into my sister's room, and they call 911. They weren't able to figure out what exactly was going down, and so one of the girls in the house, who was super religious, ended up having someone, I believe it was Catholic, they came and they blessed the house basically. Now, important context is they had one room to fill downstairs. There is a big house, a bunch of them live there, and they got this one guy off of Craigslist to move into that room downstairs, and he seemed fine, but he would always come home from work with mysterious injuries that weren't really explained, and he kept to himself. But the night before the person was going to come to bless the house, he just went missing. He left his motorcycle in the garage. He left his cat at the house. He was never found again. His girlfriend came looking for him. His work came looking for him. They filed a missing persons report. No one ever really figured out where he was. And now, you're not supposed to do this, but one of the girls in the house, they kept sending his credit card bills there, and I guess one of the girls in the house opened it up just to see where he was, and he was going in circles around the country. So they were kind of okay, he's either chasing something or running from something, but no one ever heard from him. Now, the person that blessed the house was going room to room, and when they went into his room, they were oh, this is the source of the problem, someone's doing some weird stuff in this room. How they figured that out, I don't know. Do I believe it? I don't know. But they said weird stuff was going on in that room specifically. If you thought that was bad, here's where it gets even weirder. So my sister and all her friends move out of the house, the lease ends, and I would go and spend the night there when I was visiting her. I'd been in the house, it had weird vibes, whatever. But a couple years went by, and I never really thought about the house ever again. Until my sister came to visit, and she was hey, do you remember that one weird house that I lived in that you would visit? And I'm yeah. And she's dude, look it up on the news. Now, this is where it gets really dark, and I want to respect the people involved. But essentially what happened is the landlord, who my sister spoke to, said was super nice, super cordial, super normal. He moved into the house when their lease ended and all of the girls moved out. He moved in with his daughter, and then they wanted to fill one of the bedrooms upstairs, and so they got a college student guy to move into the room upstairs. Now, of course, the plausible explanation is like this is probably just a weird mental health, like a real mental health crisis that led to weird behavior. But in the news, it said that he unalived the college kid that moved upstairs. But the series of events leading up to that was also very bizarre, is reported by the neighbors. This was in, I believe it was like 2010, when Ring cameras were kind of becoming a thing, but not huge yet. And there was an influx of neighbors that had Ring cameras or just security cameras installed around their house because specifically that guy, the landlord, was becoming aggressive, walking up and down the street, kind of grunting, talking to himself, going up to doors, just very odd behavior. And the night that this altercation happened, it was reported that the landlord was in the backyard chanting and dancing around a fire pit. And the noise was kind of what led to the altercation between him and the guy renting the room upstairs. But like in the news articles, it says that this roommate really kept to himself. There wasn't that many issues. And I don't want to say the word because I might get flagged, but like you can look up news reports that the bathroom and like the upstairs area where it took place, there was red stuff that was drawn all over the walls, and they just said it depicted weird symbols. They never described what those symbols might be. So the guy now 10 years later is obviously still in prison. The roommate unfortunately passed away, and I believe he's even said that he doesn't have any recollection of that time and what was going on. And so, again, to me, in reality, it's clearly maybe just like a mental health crisis. But with the other factors involved, it's all just so weird that this like really normal guy could move back into his house after there was some dark stuff happening in the house. And weird, like just like there'd be footsteps if you were home alone. My sister said it was just like but it wasn't a calming presence. It was like a dark presence, kind of antagonizing. And then what would eventually happen in the house? Maybe it was like a weird time warp of what was to come in the future. And it was just like harnessing this energy. I don't know. Again, I don't really believe in ghosts. I try not to believe in this stuff, but it's the only thing in my life that I've been secondhand to that I was like, what the heck? Like I was in the room. I spent time in the room, in the bathroom where this happened years later. And it's just so unfortunate for everyone involved. I think about the daughter. I think about the victim's family. It's an awful story. And it's the only thing that makes me question what was going on there. And then it was even weirder when years later, like Paranormal Activity would come out and the houses look similar to the house that it took place in. And the whole premonition of like, the whole premise, of Paranormal Activity was like odd things happening in a house and these security cameras and like nanny cams were capturing it. And this story was just so parallel to what happened in that house.
Am I in the wrong for exploding at my friend for not feeding my dog for a week because they believed a water fast was healthy? I need to vent and get some perspective on something that has me absolutely livid. I recently went on a week-long business trip and asked my friend, who I'll call Jane, to pet sit my dog Max. Jane has always seemed responsible and claims to love animals, so I trusted her without hesitation. I left detailed, explicit instructions on Max's feeding schedule, his favorite treats, and how to take care of him. I even stocked up on his favorite food and treats to ensure that there would be no issues. When I returned, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Max was unusually lethargic, his ribs were more pronounced, and he looked generally unwell. Alarm bells went off in my head, so I confronted Jane about what had happened. To my utter disbelief, she nonchalantly told me that she hadn't fed Max any food the entire week because she decided to put him on a water fast, claiming she read somewhere that it's supposedly healthy for dogs. I was absolutely horrified. Jane, who has no veterinary training or knowledge, took it upon herself to ignore my clear instructions and subjected Max to what is essentially starvation. She calmly explained that she thought that she was doing him a favor by letting his system detox. I couldn't contain my anger and exploded at her, screaming that what she did was incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. Jane then had the audacity to get defensive, saying I was overreacting and that her intentions were good. I rushed Max to the vet, and thankfully, he's on the med, but the vet confirmed that the week-long lack of food could have caused severe health issues. I'm beyond angry and feel deeply betrayed by Jane. She has since apologized, but still insists that she thought she was doing the right thing. Am I in the wrong for exploding at her for not feeding Max, even though I thought my instructions were clear enough?